Sometimes we confuse kindness with weakness. We think being kind means letting everyone walk over us, saying yes when our heart screams no, forgiving endlessly without wisdom, and loving without boundaries. But Islam teaches something deeper. Something deeper. Kindness in Islam is not blind, it is guided by justice, by purpose, by sincerity. Allah tells us to be kind, but never at the cost of our dignity or our deen. The Prophet was the most gentle of souls, yet when it came to truth, he stood firm like a mountain. Being kind to everyone doesn't mean allowing yourself to be used or broken. It means choosing mercy where it is deserved, silence where it brings peace, and distance where it protects your heart. Islam's message is not be kind to everyone no matter what, but be kind in a way that pleases Allah. Because true kindness sometimes looks like walking away, setting boundaries, or saying no for the sake of your soul. You are not harsh for protecting your peace. You are wise for valuing the trust Allah placed in you, your heart. So, stop being kind in ways that destroy you. Start being kind in ways that draw you closer to Him. Kindness in Islam is intentional, not naive. This means it's not random, blind, or driven by guilt. It's a deliberate act of worship done for the sake of Allah, guided by wisdom and sincerity. In today's world, kindness is often misunderstood. Many people think being kind means pleasing everyone, saying yes even when it hurt, or tolerating injustice to keep the peace. But Islam teaches us that real kindness has purpose. It's rooted in truth, not people pleasing. It's directed by the heart, but guided by the Quran. When Allah commands kindness, He does not call us to weakness. He calls us to strength with compassion. The Quran says, and speak to people good words. 2083. Yet the same Quran 83. Do not incline toward those who do wrong, lest the fire touch you. 11-113. These verses show balance. Our kindness must never make us enablers of wrong. It must not make us silent in the face of injustice. True kindness uplifts others without lowering our own faith or dignity. It does not seek approval from people, but seeks reward from Allah. When the Prophet showed kindness, it was never without wisdom. He forgave, yes, but he also held people accountable. He was merciful yet firm. His gentleness healed hearts, but his strength guarded the truth. When someone wronged him personally, he forgave, but when someone violated the rights of Allah or others, he stood firm and did not remain silent. This is intentional kindness. It knows the difference between when to embrace and when to step back. In our lives, we often confuse softness with righteousness. We think that if we are always accommodating, always quiet, we are being good Muslims. But that's not always true. Sometimes what looks like kindness on the surface is actually self-neglect. Sometimes, in trying to be kind to everyone, we become unjust to ourselves. We allow others to take advantage of our patience, to drain our peace, to overstep our boundaries, all because we fear being called rude or unkind. But Islam does not teach us to destroy ourselves for others. The Prophet said, your soul has a right over you. That means protecting your emotional and spiritual health is part of your faith. Intentional kindness means asking yourself, is this act of kindness for Allah? Or is it for my ego or fear of people's opinion? If you're kind because you want to avoid confrontation or because you crave approval, that's not kindness. It's insecurity dressed as compassion. But if you're kind because you want to please Allah, even when no one appreciates it, that's sincerity. Sometimes that kindness looks like forgiveness, and sometimes it looks like saying, I can't let you keep hurting me. Both can be acts of mercy, if they are done with the right intention. The Prophet was once asked who the most beloved people to Allah are, and he replied, ask those who are most beneficial to others. Notice, he didn't say those who please everyone. Being beneficial means bringing good where it's needed, not where it's demanded. Sometimes, Being beneficial means giving someone advice they don't want to hear. Sometimes it means walking away from a toxic situation so both hearts can heal. Sometimes it means being silent when words will only make things worse. And sometimes it means standing up firmly, even when it makes others uncomfortable. Naive kindness seeks comfort. Intentional kindness seeks truth. The first is reactive. It gives because it fears rejection. The second is proactive. It gives because it loves. When we act from intentional kindness, we don't measure our worth by how people respond. We don't let their behavior dictate our character. We are kind even when others are cruel, not because they deserve it, but because we want Allah's mercy. And at the same, we are wise enough to step away from those who harm us because our kindness is not permission for abuse. Islam doesn't ask you to be kind in a way that breaks you. It asks you to be kind in a way that builds others' parts and protects your heart. Allah never expects you to keep pouring from an empty cup. He wants you to fill your heart with His light first, and then let that light reach others. Intentional kindness starts there, with Allah. When you love Him, your kindness gains direction. You give, but with boundaries. You forgive, but with awareness. You help, but with wisdom. You know when to hold on and when to let go. So, kindness in Islam is not about being nice all the time. It's about being as right. It's about choosing actions that align with your faith, not your fear. It's about remembering that pleasing Allah will sometimes mean displeasing people. And that's okay. Because at the end of the day, true kindness is not how softly you speak, but how sincerely you act. It's not how much you give, but how purely you give it. When kindness is intentional, it becomes a form of worship. It brings peace to your soul, dignity to your heart, and light to those around you without ever dimming your own. The Prophet balanced mercy with strength. He was the embodiment of compassion, yet he stood as a pillar of unshakable firmness when it came to truth and justice. His life was not one of extremes, not softness that allowed harm, nor harshness that broke spirits. It was a perfect harmony of gentleness and authority, of forgiveness and accountability, of love and discipline. When we look deeply into his life, we find that his mercy was not weakness, and his strength was never cruelty. It was balance. The balance that comes only from a heart that is completely anchored in Allah. From the very beginning of his mission, the Prophet showed that mercy and strength could coexist beautifully. When the people of Ta'if rejected him, insulted him, and threw stones until his feet bled, the angels offered to crush the town in retribution. Yet, in that moment of unimaginable pain, the Prophet raised his hands not to curse them, but to pray for their guidance. He said, "So Allah, forgive my people, for they do not know." That was mercy, not born out of fear or weakness, but from immense strength of heart. He could have chosen revenge, but he chose restraint. His mercy was rooted in vision. He saw beyond the moment of pain to the potential for hearts to change. At the same time, this mercy did not make him passive. When the truth was attacked, when the innocent were oppressed, or when the sanctity of Allah's law was violated, the Prophet stood firm like a mountain. During the battles of Badr, Uhud, and Hunain, he was not a distant observer. He was at the front lines, commanding, protecting, guiding. His courage was unmatched. Yet, even in war, his compassion never faded. He forbade the killing of women, children, and the elderly. He prohibited mutilation of bodies and destruction of crops. His strength was disciplined by mercy, and his mercy was reinforced by strength. In his dealings with people, this balance shone even brighter. With his companions, he was soft-spoken, gentle, and patient. When a Bedouin once pulled his cloak harshly, leaving marks on his neck, and demanded charity, the Prophet simply smiled and gave him more than he asked for. Yet when someone wronged others or disrespected the limits of Allah, he became firm. He corrected with justice and clarity. When a woman from a noble tribe committed theft and people wanted to spare her punishment because of her status, he said, X by Allah, if Fatima, the daughter of Muhammad, were to steal, I would cut off her hand. His mercy never blurred his sense of justice. His love for people never made him compromise truth. This is the essence of prophetic character. Mercy that uplifts, not mercy that enables wrong. Many of us today struggle with this balance. We think being merciful means never saying no, never confronting someone, never standing up for ourselves or for what's right. We fear being called harsh or judgmental. But the Prophet still showed us that mercy without strength becomes fragility, and strength without mercy becomes tyranny. The beauty of Islam lies in the middle, where the heart is soft but the principles are firm. Even in his household, the Prophet Secret demonstrated this balance perfectly. He helped his wives with chores, listened to them, and treated them with immense respect. Aisha Ra said he never raised his hand against a woman or a servant, yet he was a leader in his home, a source of direction, not just affection. His kindness didn't erase his authority didn't erase his gentleness. He led with love, not dominance. He corrected with wisdom, not anger. That's why his family loved and obeyed him not out of fear, but out of deep devotion and admiration. The secret behind his perfect balance was his heart's connection to Allah. Mercy was his nature because he loved Allah's creation. Strength was his mission because he feared none but Allah. His power came from humility. His authority came from submission. The Quran describes him beautifully, daughters, and we have not sent you except as a mercy to the worlds. 21:107 nights. Yet, the same prophet who was mercy to the worlds also stood on the battlefield, defended truth, and confronted a tyrant. That is what true mercy looks like. It is not passive compassion, but active goodness guided by divine wisdom. If we want to follow his path, we must learn to practice the same balance. Being merciful doesn't mean allowing people to abuse your kindness or disrespect your faith. It means treating others with gentleness, but not tolerating injustice. It means forgiving, but not enabling harm. It means speaking kindly, but standing firmly. It means knowing when to let go and when to stand your ground. The Prophet showed us that strength without mercy hardens the heart, and mercy without strength weakens the sickle. A believer must carry both, the tenderness of compassion and the firmness of conviction. When we master that balance, we reflect a glimpse of prophetic character. We become people who heal without compromising truth, who love without losing dignity, and who forgive without forgetting justice. That is what it means to follow the mercy of the worlds, to be strong enough to be kind, and kind enough to be strong. Saying no can be an act of kindness when it protects your soul and limits harm. It sounds simple, but it takes deep strength and wisdom to live by it. We grow up being told that kindness means saying yes to helping, yes to forgiving endlessly, yes to giving more even when we're empty. But Islam teaches us something higher than blind kindness. It teaches us as wise kindness. There are moments when saying no is not cruelty, but compassion. Not arrogance, but awareness. Not rejection, but protection. When you say no for the sake of preserving your peace, your dignity, or your relationship with Allah, that is not selfishness, it's sincerity. The Prophet showed us through his example that kindness is not about pleasing people at any cost. It's about pleasing Allah in every choice. He was the most generous, forgiving, and patient of all people, but he also set boundaries. When something crossed the limits of truth or caused harm, he didn't stay silent to keep the peace. He spoke the truth, even when it was uncomfortable. He said no to injustice, to hypocrisy, to sin, and even to those closest to him when the situation required it. His refusal was never out of pride or anger. It was out of love. Love for Allah, love for truth, and love for people's long-term well-being. There is a mercy hidden in saying no. Sometimes we think that saying yes will make people love us more, but in reality, it can make them lose respect for us. And worse, it can make us lose respect for ourselves. When you constantly say yes out of fear of disappointing others, you are teaching them that your peace doesn't matter. You are teaching them that you will always be available even when you're breaking inside. But Islam teaches us to honor our own soul because it is an azamana, a trust from Allah. If you allow people to overstep your emotional, physical, or spiritual limit, you are not being kind. You are neglecting a trust that Allah gave you. The Prophet said, your soul has a right over you. That means you owe your own heart care, rest, and protection. You cannot keep pouring from an empty vessel and expect it to keep flowing. Sometimes, saying no to others is actually saying yes to Allah. Yes to peace, yes to balance, yes to faith. It's recognizing that not every request deserves a response. Not every relationship deserves endless access. And not every situation requires your involvement. There is beauty in stepping back when your presence no longer blur. Think of how many times the Prophet was pressured by his enemies to compromise, to soften his message, to blend truth with falsehood, to agree just a little for the sake of unity. But he said no firmly, calmly, and consistently. That no was not, it was love for the truth, and for future generations who would inherit that message. If he had said yes, Islam itself would have been lost. His strength to say no preserved the mercy that his message carried for all humanities. That's the kind of no that protects souls and limits harm. In our personal lives, this principle applies too. Saying no to gossip protects your heart from sin. Saying no to toxic friendships protects your peace. Saying no to overextending yourself protects your energy for what truly matters. Saying no to sin, even when it tempts you with comfort or pleasure, protects your connection with Allah. Every no rooted in sincerity is actually a vice to something better. It's a bias to self-respect, to faith, to growth. Yet, many people struggle with guilt when they set boundaries. They fear being misunderstood or called selfish. But remember, the Prophet was misunderstood too. People called him harsh when he refused to compromise truth. They called him stubborn when he remained firm. But Allah called him first a mercy to the world. Mercy is not about saying yes to everything. Mercy is knowing when to stop something before it becomes destructive. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for someone is to say no, because endless giving without limits doesn't teach gratitude. It teaches dependency. Endless forgiveness without reflection doesn't teach change. It teaches comfort in wrongdoing. True kindness not remain the same. When you say no with love and wisdom, you create space for both hearts to heal, learn, and realign. So, saying no is not about closing your heart. It's about guarding it. It's about making sure your compassion remains pure, not exhausted. It's about ensuring your energy is spent where it truly benefits others and pleases Allah. It's about choosing depth over approval, sincerity over popularity, and truth over comfort. You are not unkind for protecting your soul. You are not cold for choosing silence over argument. You are not arrogant for creating distance from those who hurt you. You are simply honoring the trust Allah placed within you. Your peace, your heart, your time. Every no spoken with wisdom is an act of mercy, mercy for yourself, and mercy for others who need to see where love ends and accountability begins. So the next time your heart hesitates, remember this: sometimes no is not rejection. It's redirection. It's Allah guiding you toward what is right, what is balanced, and what will keep your soul alive. True kindness does not mean never saying no. It means knowing when to say it, and saying it with peace, purpose, and love, Boundaries are not arrogance. They are a form of self-respect, a reflection of wisdom, and a sign of emotional maturity rooted in faith. In a world that often glorifies self-sacrifice to the point of self-destruction, Islam reminds us that moderation and balance are divine principles. Setting boundaries does not mean you are proud, cold, or selfish. It means you understand the worth of your time, your energy, and your soul. Allah created every human being with dignity, and protecting that dignity is not pride. It is gratitude to the one who gave it. Too often, we confuse humility with allowing others to take advantage of us. We think being good Muslims means never saying no, never standing up for ourselves, and always putting others first, even when it breaks us inside. But that's not the humility Islam teaches. The Prophet was the most humble man to walk this earth, yet he never allowed anyone to violate his principles, his peace, or his mission. His humility was before Allah, not before people's demands. When he was wronged, he forgave. When he was disrespected, he stayed calm. But when truth was attacked, he stood firm. That balance teaches us a vital lesson. Humility is not weakness, and boundaries are not arrogance. In the Quran, Allah tells us, "And do not walk on the earth arrogantly." Indeed, Allah does not like the arrogant and boastful of 31-18. This verse warns against pride, the belief that you are better than others or above them. But setting boundaries is the opposite of that. Boundaries do not say, "I am better than you." They say, "I respect both of us enough to know where one ends and the other begins." Pride distances people through ego. Boundaries protect people through understanding. Pride says, "I deserve more." Boundaries say, "This is what is fair." Think about the Prophet and his interactions. He gave his time generously, but he also valued it. He met people, listened to their problems, and offered guidance. Yet he also took time for reflection, prayer, and solitude. His nights were for Allah alone. Even in moments of deep compassion, he maintained clarity about his purpose. When companions asked him for things beyond his means, he did not feel guilt in saying no. He gave when it was right, withheld when it was wise, and remained kind in both cases. That is how Islam teaches us to draw boundaries, not with harshness, but with grace. When you set a boundary, you are not closing your heart. You are protecting it from unnecessary wounds. You are ensuring that your kindness remains sincere and not forced. You are preserving your energy for what truly pleases Allah. Islam does not ask you to let people abuse your patience in the name of good character. It asks you to be kind as with justice. When you allow people to repeatedly cross your limits, to disrespect your time, your emotions, or your values, that's not patience, it's neglect. Allah never wants you to neglect your soul. The Prophet yours said, "The strong person is not the one who overcomes others by strength, but the one who controls himself while in anger." This control extends to knowing when to step away from what harms you. Boundaries are an act of that control, a way of choosing peace over reaction, dignity over drama, and sincerity over resentment. When you fail to set boundaries, you often end up giving so much that your kindness turns into bitterness. You start feeling used, unseen, and exhausted. But when you establish healthy limits, your kindness remains pure, and your giving comes from love, not obligation. Some people may not understand your boundaries. They may call you distant, selfish, or proud. But remember, the Prophet was misunderstood too. When he distanced himself from hypocrisy, people called him stubborn. When he devoted himself to prayer and reflection, they accused him of neglecting worldly affairs. But his heart was with Allah, and that was enough. You don't need everyone's approval to live with peace. You only need Allah's pleasure. In truth, boundaries strengthen relationships. They make love cleaner, respect deeper, and communication clearer. Without them, even the most loving bonds can become toxic. When you tell someone, "I can't allow this," You are not pushing them away. You are inviting them to meet you in a space of mutual respect. Boundaries teach others how to love you properly, and they remind you to love yourself in a way that honors Allah's creation. So, the next time you hesitate to set a boundary because you fear being seen as arrogant, remind yourself arrogance is about pride, but boundaries are about peace. Arrogance says, I am above you. Boundaries say, I value both of us. Arrogance builds walls of ego. Boundaries build fences of respect. The difference lies in the heart. Arrogance seeks control. Boundaries seek. You owe it to your soul to protect its tranquility. The heart that constantly says, I is, to everyone will one day collapse from exhaustion. But the heart that says, I is, to Allah and no to what harms it will find peace that no one can take away. Boundaries are not barriers between you and kindness. They are the gates that guard it. When you learn to draw those lines with wisdom, you don't become less loving. You become more genuine, more balanced, and more true to your faith. So no, boundaries are not arrogance. They are mercy. Mercy for yourself and mercy for those around you. Because when you protect your peace, you protect your ability to love, to give, and to serve sincerely, healthily, and for the sake of Allah. Not everyone deserves your energy. It's a truth that many hearts learn the hard way. We give and give, believing that love, patience, and kindness will always change people. We pour our emotions, time, and care into relationships that drain us, thinking that being a good person means never stopping. But Islam teaches us that wisdom must guide compassion. Your energy is sacred. It's a trust from Allah. How and where you spend it determines the state of your soul. Not everyone who asks for your attention deserves it, and not everyone who receives your kindness will value it. Learning to discern who and what deserves your energy is part of spiritual maturity. Allah created your heart with limits for a reason. You are not meant to carry everyone's burdens. You are not responsible for healing every broken person or fixing every wrong situation. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is step back. Sometimes, protecting your peace is the best form of mercy, both for yourself and for others. The Prophet C showed us that while we should be compassionate, we must also be wise in where we give our time and emotional investment. He loved people deeply, but he didn't allow his love to blind his judgment. His compassion was always balanced with clarity. Throughout his life, the Prophet dealt with all kinds of people, believers, hypocrites, enemies, and friends. He treated everyone with justice and dignity, but he did not treat everyone the same. He gave his heart and trust to those who were sincere, like Abu Bakr and Umar Ray, but he was cautious around those who pretended to believe yet worked against him. He forgave many, but he never ignored patterns of deceit or harm. This is the wisdom we often lack. We think that to be kind, we must give equally to everyone, even to those who repeatedly drain our spirit. But true kindness is not about giving endlessly, it's about giving intentionally. When you keep giving your energy to people who don't value it, you are taking it away from those who truly need it. Your family, your sincere friends, your community, and even your own self. You're taking away the energy that could be used to worship, to grow, to serve Allah. The Prophet Zero would withdraw for periods of solitude, spending nights in prayer, away from the noise of people. He understood that even the messenger of Allah needed time to recharge, to reflect, and to reconnect with his Lord. If he, with his strength and patience, needed that space, how can we think we don't? Not everyone deserves your energy because not everyone has good intentions. Some people take, not out of need but out of habit. They will use your compassion as convenience. They will mistake your patience for weakness. They will continue to hurt you. Not because they don't see your pain, but because they know you'll never walk away. Islam doesn't ask you to tolerate injustice in the name of kindness. Allah commands justice, balance, and wisdom. He says, and do not waste, for indeed the wasteful are brothers of the devils. 72:6-27. Wasting your energy on people who harm your soul is a kind of spiritual waste. Protecting your energy doesn't mean becoming cold or distant. It means becoming discerning. It means knowing that you are accountable before Allah for how you spend your time, your words, and your emotions. It means understanding that your kindness should uplift, not exhaust you. There's a difference between giving from fullness and giving from emptiness. When you give from fullness, from a heart connected to Allah, your kindness brings peace. But when you give from emptiness, from guilt or fear of rejection, your kindness breeds resentment and fatigue. The test is not how much you can give, but how wisely you can withdraw. Saying no to what drains you can be an act of gratitude to Allah. It's saying, I value the heart you gave me. I will not let it be broken by carelessness. You cannot pour light into others if your own lamp has gone out. Protecting your energy allows you to serve better, love deeper, and worship more sincerely. Look at how the Prophet dealt with people who repeatedly rejected guidance or mocked the message. He didn't chase them endlessly. He conveyed the truth, prayed for them, and then left them to Allah. That detachment was not lack of care. It was wisdom. He understood that guidance comes from Allah, not from exhausting oneself for those who refuse it. In the same way, you are not responsible for forcing peace into someone's heart or forcing understanding into someone's mind. Your duty is to be sincere, not to be endlessly depleted. So yes, not everyone deserves your energy. Give your heart to those who appreciate it. Give your time to those who respect it. Give your kindness to those who are open to it. And most importantly, give your best energy to Allah, in prayer, in reflection, in remembrance. Because the more you give to Him, the more He replenishes you. The closer you stay to Him, the easier it becomes to recognize which people pull you closer to peace and which ones pull you away from it. The truth is, your energy is part of your manners, your trust. Spend it where it grows love, not where it breeds confusion. Spend it where it brings you closer to Jannah, not where it drains your faith. Protecting your energy is not self-made. It is self-respect in the light of faith. Some people are lessons, not lifelong companions. Some situations are meant to teach you when to give and when to let go. And when you finally learn that not everyone deserves your energy, you begin to live with the calm, dignity, and purpose that Islam truly calls you toward. True kindness is doing what pleases Allah, even when people misunderstand you. It's one of the hardest lessons of faith, to act from sincerity rather than from the need for approval. In a world that measures goodness by likes, praise, and acceptance, choosing to do what pleases Allah, even when it displeases people, takes immense courage. Yet, that is the essence of sincerity, ikhlasi. True kindness is not about being liked, it's about being right. It's not about being seen as gentle, but about being genuine. Sometimes, doing what pleases Allah means being firm, being silent, walking away, or saying something that others don't want to hear. It's not always pretty or popular, but it's pure. Many people equate kindness with compliance, as if being kind means never disagreeing, never saying no, or never standing up for truth. But the kindness that Islam teaches us is far deeper. It's not just about what looks nice on the outside. It's about what is right in the sight of Allah. The Prophet showed us that kindness is rooted in obedience to Allah, not in pleasing people. His entire life was a reflection of this truth. He was the most compassionate of all human beings, yet he faced ridicule, rejection, and hostility from those he was trying to help. His message was mercy, but people called him a liar, a sorcerer, a madman. Still, he never changed his mission to win their approval. He stayed firm in doing what pleased Allah. That was his kindness. True kindness doesn't always look soft. Sometimes it looks like correction, discipline, or distance. When the Prophet corrected his companions, he did so with gentleness, but also with honesty. When someone made a mistake, he guided them, not by humiliating them, but by helping them grow. Yet, even then, not everyone understood him. Some people took his silence as disapproval, others took his firmness as firmness, but he didn't act according to their perceptions. He acted according to Allah's command. That's what sincerity looks like. Consistency rooted in purpose, not popularity. There were times when the Prophet's mercy was misunderstood. For example, after the conquest of Makkah, when he forgave his former enemies, people who had harmed, exiled, and mocked him, many of his followers were surprised. They thought justice meant revenge. But his forgiveness was not weakness, it was divine mercy. He pleased Allah, not his ego, and through that act, hearts that once hated him melted in love. True kindness sometimes looks like forgiveness when everyone expects anger. And at other times, true kindness looks like firmness when everyone expects softness. The key is intention, doing what pleases Allah, not what pleases people. We often fall into the trap of people pleasing. We measure our worth by how others see us, by whether they think we're nice. But nice is not always right. You can be polite and still compromise truth. You can be generous and still enable harm. That's why Islam teaches us to anchor our kindness in sincerity. When you do something purely for Allah, you're not shaken by people's reactions. Whether they praise you or blame you, your peace stays the same because your purpose never depended on them. Allah reminds us in the Quran, and they were not commanded except to worship Allah, being sincere to Him in religion. 985, that sincerity applies to every act, even kindness. When you help someone through kindness, you do it because Allah loves generosity, not because you want gratitude. When you forgive someone, you do it because Allah loves forgiveness, not because you want peace from them. When you stand firm in truth, you do it because Allah commands justice, not because you want to be admired for courage. Sometimes, doing what pleases Allah will cost you relationships. People will misunderstand your silence, your limits, your faith-driven choices. They might call you distant, proud, or judgmental. But remember, even the Prophet was misunderstood. When he prayed alone in the cave, people thought he was strange. When he called people to worship one God, they accused him of dividing society. But in the end, truth prevailed. Not because he pleased people, but because he pleased Allah. True kindness is not fragile. It's not swayed by opinions or expectations. It's steady because it comes from conviction, not emotion. When you act from a place of sincerity, even your no becomes kindness because it prevents harm. Even your silence, because it stops argument. Even your distance becomes love, because it gives space for peace. People may not see it now, but Allah always does, and His approval is eternal, while theirs is temporary. There will be times when your kindness is questioned, when your intentions are doubted, when your love is unseen, when your efforts are unappreciated. But Allah never lets a sincere act go unnoticed. The Prophet said, actions are judged by intentions. So even if the world misunderstands you, if your heart is right with Allah, you have succeeded. Because the goal of kindness is not recognition. It's nearness to Him. To live this way requires courage. It means letting go of the need to be liked and embracing the peace of being true. It means trusting that Allah knows your heart when others don't. It means remembering that the same people who misunderstand you today may one day understand your silence, your boundaries, or your decisions. Or they may never do so, and that's still okay. Because your reward is not with them, it's with Allah. True kindness is not about being accepted, it's about being sincere. It's about doing what pleases Allah, even when people misunderstand you, criticize you, or walk away. It's about being gentle without being weak, strong without being harsh, and pure without being perfect. When your kindness flows from your connection with Allah, you no longer seek validation from creation. You simply act out of love for the Creator. And that is the most beautiful, unshackable form of kindness there is.